Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Pan Future Society podcast. Today is Saturday, January 14th, 2017, and as you might hear, I have a cold. I guess this week it was fortunate that I was able to schedule some interviews with a couple of the people working on the NeoShield-2 project, so you can listen to them speak a lot more than me, and I can go try to unclog my head. The NeoShield-2 project is a European Commission initiated thing, as they say on their website, a call to access technologies and characterization for near-Earth objects. The NeoShield-2 project was formed under the lead of Airbus Defense and Space in Friedrichshafen, Germany. Among their main goals is the technological development of techniques and instruments needed for guidance, navigation, and control in close vicinity of asteroids and comets. And that is the technical side of trying to land on an asteroid or smack it with a kinetic impactor to alter its orbit. And their second main focus is refining the near-Earth object characterizations, that is to make more and better astronomical observations of NEOs so we know what they are, where they're going. So with that in mind, I will send it right to the interview. This first segment of the interview was with Albert Falke, and let's get rolling. So why don't you just give me a little introduction to yourself and what you do for the NeoShield project?
Yeah, NeoShield-2 is a big project in Europe. It's funded by the European Commission with a big bunch of budget. It's more than 4 million euros, which is separated or spread over 11 partners, which are industry organizations or scientific organizations. Each of those 11 participants has independent but interacting work packages, working for, let's say, technology development on the one hand side and asteroid science and impact physics on the other side. Mm-hmm. And we are interacting on a very frequent basis. The project started in March 2015 and is now, let's say, in the second part. It will be finished by the end of this year.
Oh, okay.
And my job basically is the overall coordination of the whole consortium. I'm working for Airbus, who is the responsible project coordinator towards the European Commission. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, we have also few technical work packages here, for example, an overall GNC, which is guidance, navigation, and control systems, harmonization instance. Mm-hmm. One of the topics within the project is the development of 3 different GNC subsystems for the mission types of the impactor spacecraft, the reconnaissance spacecraft, and the landing and sample return spacecraft. And here at Airbus in Germany, we are looking for a harmonized approach to this. We are defining the test cases and verifying and evaluating final results.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then another technical topic we are addressing here is orbit determination and monitoring. You might imagine that once an asteroid has been deflected, for example, by a kinetic impactor mission, we precisely need to determine its new orbit. And therefore, we need an advanced technique in order to do this quite fast and quite precise.
Mm-hmm. So you need to not just find them, but once you move them out of the way, make sure that they're not going to come right back.
Right. And we need to determine the performance of the deflection mission in terms of verifying that it has turned out in a proper way. So, and also in the proper direction. So in case there's something wrong, another, let's say, mitigation option might be needed
Um, Now, it sounds like a very expansive project. There's a lot of different groups involved in this. Did you find it was difficult to get the attention that you wanted for this from different governments and organizations, or were they pretty easy to get on board? Even though an asteroid strike would be rare, it would be extremely serious.
Well, that's a very good question. Basically, all people we know and who we tell what we are doing are very, very interested. But as soon as it gets to budget, it turns out very difficult to motivate them. Asteroids, as well as the asteroid threat, does not have a very huge community, which helps us to promote the project. Here for our project, this was the project itself responded to a call for proposals from the European Union. This was in 2014, I guess, and so it was quite easy to propose this project to this open call. And in the end, we won, which was amazing, but also a hard piece of work, putting all the individual work packages and objectives all together, and making a very appealing and sexy proposal. But yes, now we are running. You might have realized that the AIDA project, which is a, let's say, joint effort between NASA and ESA, has had a very disappointing decision by ESA in December last year, where the AIM component of the AIDA project has not been decided for implementation. And this just reflects, let's say, the overall support in Europe for this kind of global threats. So basically, it's a very, very interesting topic and a very necessary and required field of work. But obviously, there are other interests which are rated higher. And this is very, very disappointing also for us.
Yeah. Well, what can ordinary citizens do, you think, to either get more attention or get more funding sent your way?
Yeah, we all need to spread the word. That's exactly, for example, what you are doing. One of our activities within the project is also public outreach and dissemination of the results we are performing. And in this context, we are trying to raise the public awareness about the asteroid threat and the methods or the solutions we could apply in order to get an asteroid away of our course and to ensure the humankind living longer on Earth than the dinosaurs did.
Yeah.
This is a very challenging effort, spreading the word, telling the people what's on and what's out there. Right now, we only have, let's say, 10 to 15% of the asteroids which are out there. We know their orbits, so it's a huge part of work to be done, still to be done, and for this we need the basic support of the general public. And as soon as the general public supports our activity, there will be also more funding and more backing in the politics.
Yeah. On maybe more the technical side, where are you with your various methods for deflection? Is there anything that's near testing, or are you still in the development and phase of things?
It's both. We are already testing subsystems in, let's say, relevant environments. So there is, for example, the kinetic impactor method, where we want to hit an asteroid with very high-speed satellite. We're talking about 10 kilometers per second relative velocity. And this is quite a challenging effort to target and spot an asteroid. Let's say with this high velocity means that only 6 hours before the impact, before the let's say impact point of the satellite on the asteroid surface, this asteroid can be resolved by the camera as 1 pixel. And then within the remaining time of a few hours, The targeting and a lot of correction maneuvers need to be performed. This is very demanding. To ensure that the impact takes place at the right point.
Mm-hmm.
For this technology, for example, we are already setting up a hardware test facility which is running, and right now testing takes place in order to ensure that the required performance, let's say the missed distance from the asteroid center of mass, is much smaller than the asteroid diameter.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make sure that it will be hit in the right point.
Mm-hmm.
And a similar development activity is done for a reconnaissance spacecraft. For some mission scenarios, we really need a spacecraft which explores the asteroid first. And this spacecraft needs to rendezvous with the asteroid and takes pictures from let's say a medium distance first, and then goes closer and closer. And this is very challenging because all the past missions, satellite missions, has been made to larger asteroids which have multi-kilometers size. Mm-hmm. They have substantial gravity. And this helps to navigate in the close proximity of the object. Right now, we are heading for small objects, which are only 300 meters in diameter. Hmm. And this field, the gravity influence is at the same dimension like the disturbance force, the solar irradiation pressure. And this makes it very, very hard to navigate and to control any movement close to the object. Which needs to be done in full autonomy because the signal transmission time is too long to interact and to, let's say, to steer the satellite from ground.
So you would expect these missions also to have a fairly strong artificial intelligence component so they can deal with the situation when they get there and they don't have to communicate with us back on the ground?
Well, it's more or less called autonomy. It's not artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So they need to know, or they need to have, let's say, macro commands and tools or algorithms available to control the satellite in certain boundary conditions and ensure that the situation remains stable. That's more or less the way it works.
Okay.
It's not we can command something like explore the asteroid and then send back gigabytes of data. Mm-hmm. There will still be much more interaction necessary, but to a certain grade of autonomy, the let's say spacecraft operation can be considered as automated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well. I don't think I have any other specific questions. Is there anything you would like to add to let my listeners know about what you do or what they can do?
I guess everything important has been said. One very valuable thing is spread the word and share our tweets and Facebook posts and make the project very visible to the general public. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing in order to support any advances in this context and to get backing or enough backing for this kind of planetary protection.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll be sure to spread the word and I'll be sure to put links to your project website out when I put the show up.
Yeah,
but again, thank you very much for joining me today, Albert. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And now on to my interview with Lena Drube. Joining me this morning, or I guess this evening for you.
Yes, thank you for wanting to talk to us about what we love to talk about.
Great. Well, to start with, just for my own purposes, so I don't get this wrong later, can you pronounce your name for me?
My name is Lena Drube. I'm originally from Denmark, and
Okay.
it's a very common name there. So it's not Line.
That was close to what I was going to guess, but I'll just get it right. Okay. Well, to start with, why don't you give me a little introduction to yourself and what you do for the NeoShield Project?
So I work at the German Space Agency here in Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
We have been part of the NeoShield consortium from the beginning, and was actually my boss was the coordinator of the project when we started. What we do here is, besides in the beginning doing the coordination, was that we are researchers and look into asteroids and trying to understand the asteroid population much better by looking at it looking at all the data we get from it from different telescopes.
Okay.
But my background itself is I have a PhD in astrophysics from the University of Copenhagen and have previously worked on missions to Mars and things like that.
Oh.
But then when I heard I could get a job trying to save the world, I thought, could be a fun one.
Yeah, and a very important one. So what is your current, are you just looking for all the asteroids you can find? Or is there a particular pattern that you use? Or I guess to simplify the question, how do you go about your daily job?
So my daily job is split up into a few different types of things, but one of them, the research part that I really like, is that I look at data sets from, at the moment, infrared telescope data from the WISE space infrared telescopes, for example, and a previous space telescope called IRES. Both these telescopes have observed many thousands of asteroids, or tens of thousands of asteroids. And then using this data set of these many asteroids, then trying to get information out of seeing with all the data sets. So we're not looking at pictures, we're looking at the data set. So the next level. And then trying to figure out if there's some patterns in this that you can figure out that if there's certain type of asteroid, there's in a, for example, if the spectra of the asteroid can be correlated to something that some other parts, some other physical properties of the asteroids. So trying to find patterns, and in this way, trying to figure out more about the asteroid population, such that in the case that an asteroid is coming towards us, then we'll know more about it just by the few observations that we see of it, because we have looked at the whole data set of all asteroids. Okay.
And it's important to know what kind of asteroid that is. Like I did an earlier show on asteroids and discovered many. There are rocky ones and ones that are sort of clumped gravel. So any effort to divert them kind of depends on what they're made of or how they're put together, right?
Yes, that's precisely it. It's also, for example, if you have a very fluffy asteroid, it will be affected by a kinetic impactor in a completely different way than if you take an iron nickel asteroid, a very, very solid one with a very high density. So a kinetic impactor method, that is when you just take a spacecraft with high velocity and high mass and slam it into an asteroid. That is one method of trying to change the velocity of the asteroid itself. The most simple one, but the one that is sure to work. But that depends on the surface structure of the asteroid, how effective it is.
And does your search just extend to the asteroid belt itself, or are you looking for other things like long period comets or anything like that?
So mostly we try to look at the population of asteroids called the near-Earth asteroids, because they're the one that's close to Earth and the ones where practically mostly all the asteroids that would hit Earth are in the near-Earth population. But we do also look at the main belt asteroids, because there you have millions of asteroids. So you have a bigger population to statistic on and the like. But we don't look so much on comets, especially long period comets, because the chance of one of those hitting us is very minute, very tiny. So we are more worried about the asteroids. And it's also, if you have one of the comets from the outer solar system coming in, they are very, very difficult to do anything about, actually. So, for example, I think it was last year, there was a comet discovered, long period comet, that would possibly hit Mars here last year. So they knew this 1 year before it was going to do a close flyby of Mars. Luckily, it wasn't going to hit. But if something like that was going to happen to Earth, where you realize only a year in advance that a very big, this was kilometer size, comet was going to come at enormous speed, because that's what they do, the long-term, long-period comets. They come at very, very high speeds compared to the near-Earth asteroids. And they would be very difficult to do something about, because if you're going to send a spacecraft out, you'd have to intersect it. So you'd actually have to send out and try to catch up with this comet. So some of those are they're more difficult. But the chance of that happening are very, very tiny. So I'm not too worried.
So the near-Earth asteroids are a separate population from the main belt? Did they come from the main belt, or are they just leftovers from the formation?
They come from the main belt, mostly. So it's, for example, if you have asteroids in the main belt that might come a bit close to Jupiter, something like that, then the gravity field of Jupiter can change their orbit, sending it closer into the solar system. When they get there, they don't survive very long compared, in astronomical timescales. So therefore, you need to have they need to keep coming from the main belt to survive. That we have a population now in the near-Earth population.
So this is also then something you need to continuously watch for these, because over time Jupiter may disturb more of them, and there'll be new ones that you need to watch out for.
Yes, there will be some new ones, but luckily we're talking about millions of years that they. So even though some disappears over time or crash into, and we get new ones, it's extremely slowly compared to the lifetime of a human.
Okay.
So we're not. That's not too worrying. But that could always. So if you found all asteroids over a certain size, you will still need to pay attention, because they could come long period comets or new ones coming in. But it's a smaller risk. So the way most people see it is that the most important thing in asteroid defense is to observe the asteroids, trying to watch as many as you can to get their orbit. So trying to determine their orbit around the sun, because all of them goes around the sun. So, which means an asteroid that could impact you might come past you, fly past Earth many times before it does. So you can get a good observations of it before then, and get the orbit cleared out, so that you can clarify, so that you know if it's going to hit or not. And that is the best way of having a long time to plan your mission, if finally you find an asteroid that will hit Earth.
Yeah. The longer you have, the better, right?
Yes. Okay. Because if you impact, let's say there's an asteroid coming, if you impact it 5 years in advance, just give it a slight. So when you impact it, you just try to change the velocity of the asteroid. Just slow it down or speed it up, for example, such that, so you're not actually going to put it in a completely different orbit. It's just going to be going from it hitting the Earth to flying right in front of the Earth if you speed it up, or fly right behind the Earth if you're going to slow it down. So it's just small changes is enough if you have enough time. Then you can just do a tiny change, and that will be enough to 5 years later that it's have changed the orbit enough to not hit the Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. What do you think the public at large needs to know that it doesn't know about this project? Or what can the public do to help you out?
Well, actually, the most important thing is that we can continue the research, because if you're just going to stop now, then none of the plans are finished, and we're not really ready yet to do it. So all the time we end up, in the point where we have to argue the fact that we need to continue this work to finalize it. So, for example, the NeoShield consortium, all of us, this whole consortium will end in September now. So after 5 years, we got a long way, but then in September it's all over if we don't figure out a new way of continuing the research. And if we don't, everybody will start working on other projects. And then all that knowledge is not lost, because we've all put out articles and trying to keep it for the future. But yeah, that is the main problem, that it's very uncertain.
It needs to be a continuous process, doesn't it?
Yes, until you have actually tested out these methods of deflecting asteroids, then you can't really be sure that you can do it in a real case scenario, because all you have is your calculations and computer modeling, but no one ever tried it.
Yeah, I can't think of another sort of project, even in the realm of space exploration, that requires this much long-term planning. You're working on things that might not actually be implemented for 100 or 200 years.
Yes. Well, I have a feeling it's going to be shorter time than that, because when are you going to send up a mission to deflect an asteroid? Are you going to wait until it's 100% sure that it's going to impact, or will you do that when there's a 50-50 chance it's going to do it, or 10% chance? Where's your limit? Where's the threshold? And so if there's a 10% chance that you're going to get impacted, and you do something like that, that means that you actually do it. That you will end up doing it 10 times more often than what might be necessary. But will you take the chance? Because the problem is, if you wait until the chance is 100 that it's going to hit, then it might be too late to do anything about it. So I think we'll need to do it more often than is necessary. So it might be that it won't take 100 years before we'll need this kind of thing.
It could be. I've heard the term keyhole used. I think there was an asteroid that was, if it passed through a certain point, then on its way back around again. So we should really be looking for things, even anything that might impact us in the future. We could do something about it now, rather than wait until it's a crisis.
Yeah. So a keyhole, it is a sort of, you can imagine, if it flies by the Earth, so Earth gravity field will change the orbit of the asteroid. And it is in part of the gravity field. If an asteroid comes in, precisely such that it goes through an area where the gravity will change the asteroid's orbit in such a precise way that next time around it will impact. That area where if it goes through precisely there, that it will end in this loop coming back to Earth in a year or two, that is what's called a keyhole. And you can calculate if it's going to go through this keyhole, and the keyhole can be very small. It could be like a kilometer size or something like that. Which means if you can calculate it's going to go through the keyhole, then you need to just move it maybe half a kilometer, which is nothing compared to when it comes back again and you have to move it the size of the Earth.
Yeah.
So that's what they're talking about with the keyhole, where you can just do minor maneuvers and it will change enough.
Yeah. Well, that's about all the specific questions I had for you. Is there anything you'd like to add or ask the public to do to make sure that all this work continues?
I don't know. It's have you read in America? They just came out here a couple of days ago from the Executive Office of the President of the United States. It just came out with this National Near-Earth Object Preparedness Strategy.
Oh, I have not seen that yet. No.
No.
Huh.
No, it's also just came out a couple of days ago.
Okay.
Where a group has put up suggestions, a strategy of how to be more prepared. And they're going to put out soon an action plan. So in this document here, there's about 7 points they're talking about of seven subjects, such as enhanced NEO detection, so near-Earth object detection, tracking, and characterization capabilities. Second thing is develop methods for NEO deflection and disruption. 3, improve modeling prediction and information integration. And then there's develop emergency procedures for NEO impact scenarios. Establish NEO impact response and recovery procedures, meaning if it's actually impacted the Earth, how do you respond? And continues.
Yeah.
And they have, so keep an eye out for this action plan they're going to come up with. And when they come up with the action plan, then they will have to have it get funding for it after that. So it's not just because they do the action plan saying this is what is needed to be done to be prepared. That doesn't mean necessarily they can do it.
No,
because that's all about funding.
I guess maybe that's the simplest interaction between scientists like yourself and the public like me is you do the research and the data and the heavy technical lifting, but it's up to the public to put pressure on the politicians to actually spend the money to get it done.
Yeah, that's precisely it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lena, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Yes, and thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.
Yeah. Hey.
Bye. All right, there you have it, your interviews this week. Go to the NeoShield Project website, that is neoshield.net, NeoShield. Check out what they're doing. Call your senators, write to your leaders. And my main takeaway from this is that there are some great people doing great work trying to protect us from potentially world-ending events. However, the short-sightedness of governments and the lack of attention from the general public means that, at best, this work is moving in fits and starts. And projects like NeoShield need to be ongoing and continuous, even if these impacts are rare. One is enough to end everything that we know. I think this is something that should be under the umbrella of the UN. If the UN can have a Security Council with permanent members, there can be a permanent UN Planetary Defense Council. This is a need that transcends temporary governments and the shifting whims of voters. As a note of advice for this and other issues, contact your politicians, but don't email them. Calling is the best option, and writing a real letter can be good as well. Email is too easy, and your message will likely get lost in the wash of many other emails. Even those online petitions probably really don't do a whole lot. You'll probably get a form email back if you send an email thanking you, blah, 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 and you'll end up on their fundraising list. A call or a real letter is more likely to get you attention directly from the person that you're writing to or calling rather than just their staff. So talk to your elected officials and tell your friends. This is one of those planting trees you won't sit under issues, and it is something which we can generally make progress if the funding and the attention is there. That is everything for this week. Thank you always for joining me. Come see us online at panfuture.org. Find us on Facebook and Twitter. And I will talk to you again in the future.